good afternoon, good evening, depending on when and where you're viewing this. My name is Mike. I am the Crypto Liberal. Thanks for joining me again today. Hope you're having a great long weekend, or if you get a long weekend this weekend. It's 4th of July in the United States, so anybody that is celebrating that, happy 4th of July. I'm kind of trying to stay away from the charts, but I didn't want to go a day without making a video because I've adjusted a few things on my Bitcoin chart and just wanted to bring everybody up to speed on what I'm looking at and how I'm playing the game right now. And it is a game. It's a big game, right? Don't fall for the traps that are being set, right? If you haven't, if you've been holding through this lengthy downturn, if you can hold out, right? Don't sell now because why, right? I mean, we're below where we were at the top of the last bull market. And if Bitcoin's history, crypto's history tells you anything, a turnaround is coming. And again, it might not be for 6 months. It might not be for a year, but a turnaround is coming. And if you don't need the USD, the US dollar, that's the equivalent of whatever crypto you're holding, now's not the time to sell. Now's the time to accumulate dollar cost average. But I want to talk about what I'm doing today. So let's start with Bitcoin. And this lower trend line down here. So if everybody recalls, I'm just going to set it up real quick. I've got two descending channels that I think we've been in for almost 2 years now, like a year and a half. And they're perfect descending channels. All three lines. So there's, a top descending channel and a lower descending channel. And there's 3 lines, that middle descending line serving as both the bottom of the upper descending channel and the upper of the lower descending channel. And the two descending channels both serve as support and resistance multiple times throughout the last 2 years practically. So let's just take a look at it, because I extended out the bottom line but I moved it up a little bit because I think it was more accurate. So let's check it out. So we're going to shrink this down a little bit so we can get a fuller picture of what we're looking at. So look at this. Now we got to even shrink it more. So this is going back 2 years. I mean, back to January of 21. So not quite 2 years, year and a half, over a year and a half at this point, right? But so this lower descending channel is what I'm talking about right now. So right back here, in January of 21, it served as resistance initially, right? And then after we went up to our first all-time high of, 64,000, we came back down and tested it perfectly in here for 3 months, from, May of 21 to all the way to basically the end of July of 2021. And then, we haven't seen it since. And we're halfway between this middle line, this middle red line, and the lower red line. But you can see the middle red line, how much that played as support for going back 2 years, or a year and a half, right? And the upper line, how much that served as resistance going back a year and a half, right? So these lines are beautiful, and they even become more beautiful when we zoom in. So let's do that. Let's just zoom in just for showcasing this, what I'm looking at. Okay, so got to go all the way to today, right? So here's that middle line where we held it as support for a month and over a month, and I thought we were going to hold it, and we didn't, right? And because of all the greed in the system is why we didn't hold it, right? All the big money that are getting liquidated left and right and hurting us all. Well, that's why we didn't hold it. And now we're almost halfway between this upper trend line and this lower trend line. And again, I extended this lower trend line out because it's becoming more important here as we go on. And I also moved it up a little bit without violating the support that it's had for the past 2 years. So right here, back in July of last year, we closed right on top of that line. Here in June of last year, we closed right on top of that line. Back earlier in June of last year, we wicked down right to it. All the way back here in May, we wicked down to it. We closed above it, wicked down to it. I mean, that served as perfect support for over 3 months back in the middle of 2021. But it goes back further, right? When we were first going up from 9, 10, 11,000 all the way up to 64,000. When we first reached where this line is, it served as resistance. Look at that. Back in, and this is back in January of 21, you know, when we were right in the middle of the beginning of the bull market, or, you know, not even the beginning, we were fully in the bull market at this point, and approaching 40,000 for the first time ever. But when we got to this line, which didn't exist at the time, got rejected, you know, for a few days, came back up and kind of got rejected again, and for like a month maybe in here, and then came over to here and even got a little bit of rejected here. And finally, you know, the bulls were like, screw it, we're going through it. And when we broke it, when we broke that line, we were off to the races. So that tells me this line is very valid and very strong, both as resistance and support. And this solidifies it. This 3 months here we spent on top of it. So are we going down to that? The more time we spend in this lower channel, the more I believe we have to go down to this lower trend line. And like I said, I moved it up, and it still was, you know, accurate as far as what support it's serving. And, you know, right now it's at about 10,000. Now, again, I've said this before on these charts. I'm looking at the Coinbase chart, right? And a daily chart for the Bitcoin chart. So every exchange has their own chart, and every exchange, that $10,000 I just showed you for where that lower line is, it might be 10,300 on another exchange, or 9,700 on another exchange. So you can't take that line as an exact dollar figure. So you just got to think of the general area, right? It's generally around $10,000 right now. So I would not be surprised if we come down and visit this line. You know, maybe we come down to 12,000 with a big wick down to, when we get down here to 9,600. We have a big wick to 9,600, and then we go down to, we close the daily at 13,000, right? We just have a big sell-off with all these liquidations that are going on. We wick down to 9,700 or something like that. You know, maybe it's 10,300, and then we just get bought back up really quick, back up to 13,000, 14,000, and set the bottom once and for all. I can totally see that happening. You know, on the bullish side, and this isn't out of the question yet, I mean, we could still have a little bit of a W here, right? I mean, it's hard to say anything is bullish at this point. But I mean, if you wanted to take the bullish case, right, you could argue that we have this bullish possible line here. Now, I don't know if we do get this bullish line that we're going to actually go up as high as I just drew it, right? But and it should have come down a little bit more over on here. But you know, it's possible. It's possible. I don't think it's very likely. I think, you know, at this point, you've got to say it's more likely that we're going to go down to, you know, lower numbers. I don't know where that is, and nobody knows where that is. And again, I'm not going to get excited about Bitcoin again until we get past this red line. So maybe it's not a coincidence that I drew my line up here to the red line, because that's where I will get excited about Bitcoin again. When we finally surpass this red line and hold above it, and maybe even come back down and test it as support. And where that red line is when we finally cross it, you know, maybe it's way out here. And at that, you know, maybe it's like way down here and it's at 23,000. I mean, it could be 6 months away before we get above that red line, and it's at 22,000. You know, I don't know. So if you appreciate that, if you want to follow my journey and discuss, you know, these changing numbers every day, that's what I'm trying to do for my audience, right? Discuss these changing numbers every day, and you know, trying to figure out where support is and where resistance is. If you value that, if you get any value out of this, do me a favor. I'd really appreciate it. Give me a like, give me a comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification. So that's what I'm, you know, I think that covers Bitcoin, right? I can't get excited about Bitcoin. It's just not, there's nothing there. And as long as we are hanging out in the middle of this descending channel, you know, going back a year and a half, over a year and a half at this point, there's nothing to talk about. You know, we need to get above the upper red line, or come down and visit the lower red line. I don't think we're just gonna hang out in the middle. You know, it just doesn't make sense. We're just not gonna hang out in the middle and then go back up, in my opinion. Now again, none of this is financial advice. I could be wrong completely tomorrow, but that's just what I see, and that's how I'm playing Bitcoin right now. And you know, like I've tried to talk about, you know, I'm not excited about Bitcoin, and I'm not leaving the market. I'm not leaving crypto. I mean, right? Maybe I should have taken some of my long-term positions and sold, you know, 3 months ago, 4 months, 6 months ago. Would have been smart, right? Would have been smart. If everybody would have, you know, if you had to do it over, I think everybody would answer, yeah, I would have sold 6 months ago my long-term holdings and bought back in now. But, you know, my long-term holdings are my long-term holdings, and I will transition in and out of you know, various protocols based on what I'm seeing. So, but again, ever since we broke that middle trend line in my 2 descending channels, I'm just not excited about Bitcoin anymore. But that doesn't mean that I'm not excited about anything in crypto, because like I said, I'm not selling out, and it doesn't make sense to sell out at this point. But I can still stack sats by taking Bitcoin and moving it into other things. And it's working, right? And it's working. And we're stacking sats. And right now is the time to be excited about other things than Bitcoin, in my opinion. Again, this is not financial advice. So, you know, again, I think we got the story out for Bitcoin, right? We know what's going on. Okay. So one thing I wanted to talk about is, you know, I was going around on YouTube today thinking, what are other people saying? You know, every weekend I kind of scan the other influencers, you know, some of the people I follow. I'm not going to name any names, about, you know, what are they saying? What are they thinking? And I was just shocked at the fact that there's just no content out there. Nobody's talking about anything. And so that, you know, got me thinking, right? When do you, you know, I started calling what I'm seeing alt season. And it doesn't mean that alts are going to rip against the US dollar anytime soon. I mean, someday they will, right? Someday they will. But it doesn't mean that they're going to rip against the US dollar, you know, next week, next month, 6 months from now. But alt season means to me that it's going to rip against Bitcoin. And I think we are in the early stages of that right now. Maybe they all go down, but I think Bitcoin goes down more. And if nobody is talking about that, I mean, Bitcoin is just ugly. If you look at it on the weekly time frame, right? The weekly time frame is just ugly. And look at this, it's just nasty. All the way from our upper channel, descending channel trend line, possibly down to our lower in the span of, you know, a few months. But it doesn't mean there's not opportunities. And the fact that nobody, not one single person, is talking about the possibility that an altcoin season is about to start makes me even more bullish on the alts that we're identifying on this channel, right? If we're the only ones talking about it, when do you want to do it? When do you want to get into an alt? When do you want to recognize an alt season? The best time to recognize an alt season is before anybody else does. And right now, I'm sorry, I'm the only person I think that I've seen that's calling for an alt season. Again, that doesn't mean it's going to rip against the US dollar, but it might rip. I'm playing the possibility that it's going to rip against Bitcoin. And why am I saying that? Well, let's just start with today. I mean, it's like this almost every day since I've been talking about this. But let's just start with today, right? Every week, you know, I've had this channel almost for 9 weeks now. 9 weeks. And when I started the channel, I said, you know, if you're putting new money into the market, in my opinion, not financial advice, in my opinion, ADA will outperform Ethereum and Bitcoin by the end of the year, end of this year, a year from now, and 5 years from now. And Ethereum will outperform Bitcoin by those same time frames. And I set out to prove it to you, right? I didn't just make the prediction and just say, and then forget about it, you know, 4 months later when it doesn't come true, or, you know, the end of the year when it doesn't come true, actually. I set out to prove it to you. And every week, you know, I have this portfolio that I that I put on Twitter and I put on video every week. We put $100 into those 3 coins every week. We've been doing it for 8 weeks. And we're tracking the progress, seeing which one is doing better, which of those 3 coins is doing better to prove my hypothesis. I'm trying to prove my hypothesis. I'm not, just throwing things out against the wall and seeing what sticks. Well, how is that working? I mean, let's just start with today. Look at today. ADA is outperforming Bitcoin by 2.4%. Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin by, almost 1% just today. And this is almost like every day this happens. ADA, look at this. We put $800 into each of these coins. $100 each week for 8 weeks we've done it. They're all losing money. But if you want to stack sats, right? ADA is outperforming Bitcoin, right? ADA is outperforming Bitcoin. ADA is outperforming Ethereum. Now Ethereum is losing to Bitcoin, and we'll talk about that in a second, since we started this channel 8 weeks ago, but it's catching up because we didn't identify it as truly, truly bullish against Bitcoin until a few weeks ago. So again, I said by the end of the year, ADA will outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum. I didn't even need till the end of the year. It's July and it's already killing Bitcoin and Ethereum. And again, by the end of the year, I think Ethereum will catch Bitcoin and surpass it in our portfolio, right? Dollar cost average right now is the best opportunity you have to stack sats, I think. And it's stacking sats by going into the right investments at the right opportune time. So let's explore ADA a little bit deeper, right? Why am I so bullish on ADA right now at this exact moment, right? I said I've been doing this for 8 weeks. Well, it was only a few weeks ago that we really called out ADA as being bullish versus Bitcoin. And we'll look at it. So I look at the ADA BTC chart, not ADA versus USD, ADA versus BTC. And I look at the weekly chart on Coinbase. So this is not a short-term play. This is a 6-month play, a year-long play, an 18-month-long play, playing the longer trends. And that's why when I started this channel 8 weeks ago, I said end of the year, a year from now, 5 years from now, ADA will outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum. Well, it's already doing it, but it was like just a couple weeks ago, right, that I pointed this out on this channel. I brought it to this channel just like almost 3 weeks ago now. At this exact point right here, the week of June 13th, before this giant green candle that you see here, right? When we had broken this descending wedge that goes back over a year, this descending wedge, we broke the resistance like the previous week. And then the week of, it was a Sunday night, the week of June 13th, I came on this channel with this special video right when we were testing that former red line as resistance, now it's support, and we bounced off. I said when one ADA was worth 0.000019 Bitcoin, that I was moving most of my Bitcoin into ADA. That exact night. I came on right when it was happening, right in the middle of the Terra Luna dump, right? When my support line on Bitcoin didn't hold, I was like, Bitcoin is not going to do well, right? And I moved it into ADA because I saw that chart. And look at this. When I set it down here and we had the giant green candle. And last week we gave back a fraction of it. And this week we're green again. And what am I waiting for? Well, first of all, the return on that so far is 25%. I just calculated it before I came on this evening. 25%, meaning if you had moved in with me that night, 1 Bitcoin into ADA that night has now turned into 1.25 Bitcoin. If you had moved 2 Bitcoin in with me that night, you'd have 2.5 Bitcoin. And that's without putting new money into the game. That's without trading on leverage and risking your entire portfolio by getting liquidated. You could stack sats, by recognizing that, hey, Bitcoin is going to have some problems in the next few months, and moving it into coins that have had problems in the past 6 months, but are now stabilizing versus Bitcoin. And that's exactly what's happening, right? This is a descending wedge. It's been ugly for 9-10 months. in ADA versus Bitcoin. Well, now it's not. ADA's breaking out. And I'm not waiting for a 25% return. I'm waiting for ADA to get back up here. Again, this is why I say it's a long-term play. It's not going to happen next week, next month, 6 months from now. But up here at 0.00006 Bitcoin. What would that mean? That would mean taking one Bitcoin, putting it into ADA that night, 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago now. If you had done it and it does get to where I say it's going to get to, that'd take one Bitcoin and making it 3. 2 Bitcoin and making it 6. 3 into 9. I don't do math after that. Single digits is all I can do. Right? Without putting new money into the game, without trading on leverage and risking your entire portfolio. Don't trade on leverage. So ADA is bullish, but that's not the only reason I think that oh, and the other thing I want to say is, right, I have other resistance line, these blue lines here. We'll talk about that on this channel as we continue to move up, because I think we're going to move up. We'll talk about maybe pulling some of that ADA back into Bitcoin. And I'll be honest and forthcoming on this channel. So if you appreciate that and want to hear when I'm moving back into Bitcoin, some of it, for a majority of it, I'm probably going to wait for that 0.00006. But some of it I might pull out early, depending on how Bitcoin's looking, and move it back into Bitcoin. But right now, ADA is so bullish against Bitcoin. And those that are failing to recognize it haven't recognized that alt season is around the corner, and you want to be the first one in it before the herd recognizes it, right? And that's what I'm trying to do on this channel. If you appreciate that, give me a like, give me a subscribe, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, follow me, because we will talk about this as it moves up, and we will we will shout from the rooftops when we're in the middle of alt season that maybe you should have followed us, you know, whenever it started, now when it started, but that might be 6 months out. But we're at the forefront on this channel. So that's ADA, but that's not the only reason, again, that I'm calling alt season as being around the corner. Let's look at ETH. ETH versus BTC. Again, I look at ETH versus BTC on Coinbase, not looking at it versus US dollar, not looking at it on the daily. I'm looking at a weekly chart. So again, this support line, look at this lower red line, goes back, you know, over this December of 20, right? December of 2020. So it goes back well over a year and a half, and it's held perfectly. So again, I didn't tell you about this, you know, on the week of May 23rd. I didn't say, hey, maybe you want to get into Ethereum. I waited until we were testing this support line right here the week of June 6th. I waited until the exact opportune moment when that chart was turning bullish. If you appreciate that, give me a like, give me a subscribe. But what did we do, right? I came on 2 weeks ago and said, when I'm moving most of my Bitcoin into ADA, I said, I'm also moving a portion into Ethereum. And it was down here at 0.052 Bitcoin, approximately. I moved it out and said, I think this support line is going to hold. And what has happened since then? Last week, look at this. Look at this. You can't make this up. Last week, we wicked down to it. We wicked down to that support line. It bounced. It held perfectly. We had a green week. This week is a little red, right? We've given back some. But what happened in the past few days? We wicked down to that support line. It held. It bounced. You can't make that up. I've had that support line on there for weeks, and it's bouncing off of it weekly. So as long as we maintain that support line, we're in profit against Bitcoin, right? And when I moved in at 0.052 Bitcoin, and now we're at 0.055 Bitcoin, that's like over a 5% profit versus Bitcoin without putting new money in, without trading on leverage, right? We're making like a 6-7% profit against Bitcoin. And again, I'm not waiting for a 6 or 7% profit. I see this whole chart as an ascending triangle. This upper blue line as the resistance, this lower red line as the support. So I'm waiting for it to get back up to here at 0.07 something Bitcoin, right? 0.77 approximately. What would that be? A 50% return. Almost a 50% return. I think I figured it out. That's turning 1 Bitcoin into 1.5, 2 Bitcoin into 3, without new money, without trading on leverage. It's alt season. Alt season's around the corner, in my opinion, not financial advice. But that's not the only reason. ADA and Ethereum aren't the only reason. I have 2 more, but we'll only look at 1 more tonight because I'm only looking at maybe getting into this one. Polkadot versus Bitcoin. Polkadot versus Bitcoin. This chart, if you remember the ADA chart we already looked at, looks extremely similar. Not quite as far back. It doesn't go quite as far back. It only goes to November. But look at that serving as the upper red line serving as resistance, lower red line serving as support, descending wedge. 2 weeks ago, we broke out of it. Right? Last week, we settled right on top of that resistance line. So it's serving as support. What happened this week? Look at that. You can't make this up. I've had this line on here for weeks, or a couple weeks now. We wicked down to that line, that resistance line, served as support. We bounced off. Right? I'm not in Polkadot right now. Full disclosure, I'm not in Polkadot right now. But tomorrow, I might be jumping in, and I'll make a video on it if I do. I might be taking the rest of my Bitcoin. It's not much, so my exposure to Polkadot would be very limited as compared to Ethereum and especially ADA. But I'll make a video tomorrow and tell you if it's what I'm doing. So if you want to be notified when I make that video, if I make that video, hit that bell notification so you're getting notified when I make these videos. But so tomorrow, if we hold this former resistance line, this upper red line, if we hold the former resistance line as support, and so far we have this week, I might be moving into Polkadot and getting some exposure to Polkadot. And where would it go? Again, I would wait for the top of this descending wedge, maybe up here at 0.0008 Bitcoin. And you know where we started from, we're starting from down here approximately somewhere when we get in, you know, 0.035 around maybe. Again, that's more than a double. 1 Bitcoin into 2, 2 Bitcoin into 3 or 4, right? Without new money, without trading on leverage. Alt season is around the corner, and I have other charts that are also kind of showing that maybe alt season is coming. Now, again, I could be proven wrong tomorrow. This is not financial advice. This could all just blow up in my face, and I'll be shedding Bitcoin left and, you know, shedding sats left and right, right? I could be losing sats left and right tomorrow. So this is not financial advice. You need to do your own research and make your own decisions. But that's what I'm doing. And I don't know, it's working out so far. You know, 25% return on ADA versus Bitcoin, 6-7% return on Ethereum versus Bitcoin in just a few weeks. I don't know. It's working so far. So we'll see. We're going to keep tracking it. I'm going to keep tracking it. I'm going to keep proving my hypothesis. So if you appreciate that, give me a like, give me a subscribe, because I'm not going to just make a prediction and go hide in the woods when it doesn't come true. I will keep putting it on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at @crypto_liberal. Follow me on this channel, because I will keep posting my mistakes and my successes. And so far we've had more successes than mistakes, right? We had one big mistake, that support line in Bitcoin didn't hold. It was wrong. I didn't anticipate the greed of the industry, unfortunately, but here we are. But alt season is upon us, and we can overcome the greed. We can overcome the greed by playing what the charts are telling us. So if you appreciate that, give me a like, give me a subscribe, hit that bell notification, follow me, and we will talk about this repeatedly ad nauseum until it comes true, or we burn in whatever, right? Burn in wherever. So that's it. I hope you're having a great weekend. I hope you're not staring at the charts, because I think some ugliness is coming to Bitcoin. Maybe not as much to the alts, right? But when it turns around, we're going to rip. Alts are going to rip versus Bitcoin. Alts have been killed for 9 months, 9 months. And when it turns around, alts are going to rip versus Bitcoin. And I'm preparing now by moving out of Bitcoin into those alts. And I'm preparing now by dollar cost averaging every Friday, primarily into ADA. And we're going to make life-changing money in the next couple of years, in my opinion. So that's it. Hope you're having a great weekend. it's again, there's no better place to be paying attention and investing right now than in crypto, because everything is ugly right now. But when it turns around, you're going to be happy, I think, in my opinion. That's it. Hope you have a great weekend. My name is Mike. I am the Crypto Liberal. Have a great weekend. We'll chat more tomorrow. Promise. Good night.